Steve, you got to be fair about this, right? Because the economy may not be the president's fault. It is his problem. Is there anything he can do about it? Actually about high prices, or is what we've been seeing in the polling the effects of what he's doing about it in messaging?
To answer your question, yes, there's something immediate he can do about it, which is reach a peaceful conclusion to the war in Iran. Because the pre-war trajectory, Leland, was actually quite good. Real wages were growing. The Trump-Bessent plan was really working for regular Americans. Now, the war disrupted all of that. And I believe that this war is a war of choice, and we can choose to end it on terms that are reasonable to the United States and get back to that trajectory. So that is by far the biggest action he can take to get back to a place where we're focused on domestic issues in this country and on prosperity for Main Street America. And, I would add, Leland, I mentioned on your show previously, focusing on the stock market is a mistake. I believe that. I find that in my polling. I find it in my focus groups. A lot of regular Americans, in fact, are starting to actually resent the stock market going higher. Now, in general, we want asset prices to increase, of course, across this country. However, right now, there is a consensus among regular working class people who live paycheck to paycheck that they are being left out of an inflationary economy that's great for asset owners, but not great for wage earners.
Scott Bessent would call them the doomer people, I think. Take a listen.
There's new government data that shows that Americans are now saving a smaller share of their incomes than at any time over the past 4 years. Are you seeing signs that American households are dipping into their savings to pay for the higher costs of things like gas and groceries? And does data like that concern you right now?
Academic literature would tell you a lower savings rate can mean one of two things. The doomer view that you took, or that people have more confidence.
Would you care to venture a guess which one it is?
So, listen, I think Secretary Bessent's doing an incredible job. He truly is. And he's correct, by the way, though, when he talks about, again, the pre-war trend was very friendly for workers. And I think we can get back to that and get back to it relatively quickly. And he's also exactly correct when he talks about the miracle of American energy production. Because we are producing so much, if we stop this war of choice, then I think we very quickly get back to a place where energy is not a hurdle any longer, but actually a propellant for the economy exploding in real ways for regular workers. And to connect this back to Hispanics, by the way, which you began this segment by mentioning, Hispanics overwhelmingly statistically are working class people. They are right now very frustrated with the administration. It's not about immigration. That's what a lot of Washington Republicans want you to believe. A lot of big business representatives in Washington want you to believe. It's not about immigration. It's about the economy, because a lot of bad hombres, guess what? They work with their minds as well as their hands. They drive pickup trucks. They drive F-150s. It's expensive. Also, Hispanics are very entrepreneurial. Entrepreneurs tend to be the consumers of commodities rather than the producers of commodities. Most companies producing commodities are giant multinationals, big oil companies, for example. So an inflationary environment is tough for entrepreneurs, tough for blue-collar workers. Hispanics are overrepresented in both of those groups. The way we get Hispanics back, the way we get working-class people of any ethnicity, of any variety back in this country, is to return to a focus on growing real wages. The best way to get there, the quickest way, two things. One is end the war. The second is ramp up even further immigration enforcement. The more we get illegal workers out of this country, and in my view, the more we even restrict legal workers to this country, for example, clamping down even harder on worker visas, the more we raise pay for American citizens. Those, to me, are the two routes to get back to prosperity. End the war and clamp down more on immigration. We do those two things, we can grow Main Street prosperity.
You and I are going to have to argue sometime about whether or not that the wage increases would just be inflationary, but that's for over a drink when we can talk about economics. You are in the camp of the White House that says end the war, end it now, peacefully, basically on whatever terms are necessary, but let's just be done with this. There is the much more Iran hawkish part of the White House and of the Republican Party that demands the end of Iran's nuclear program once and for all, that will come, I think, only through force. In the middle is the calendar, which leads towards the midterms. You sent me this tweet. In heavily Hispanic Starr County, which Trump flipped, Starr County's in Texas in the Rio Grande Valley, the Democrats got 6,600 votes in the primary. Ken Paxton won that county tonight with 60 votes. Add in Cornyn's 30, there were 90 GOP votes.
Yeah.
Why is that important?
It's really important. So Starr County, and I made a whole documentary there. I spent a lot of time there. Most Hispanic county in America. It's basically 100% Latino, Starr County on the U.S.-Mexico border. Trump won it. Okay, that was astounding that Trump won it in 2024. You showed he almost won the Hispanic vote nationally. He did win Hispanic men. The fact that 6,600 people in Starr County decided to vote in the Democratic primary and only 90 pulled a Republican ballot when you have a really contentious Republican race, by the way, for U.S. Senate. That tells us that these Hispanics are reverting to their former ways of voting heavily democratically, that they are frustrated right now with the Republican Party. That is a huge flashing warning sign. I can't think of a bigger warning sign, as a matter of fact, than 60 million people who we were earning their support, bringing them over to our side. I've spent a lot of the last decade focused on earning Hispanic support. We did it in 2024. We did it on steroids. Now it's at risk. And it's not at risk because of immigration. I'm polling Hispanics right now. I'll have final results next week, but the early results very strongly show me that it's about the economy. It's not about immigration. As a matter of fact, I think stay stronger on immigration to get the economy better for those very same bad hombres.
Yeah, you make a
this is
great
something
point
we've got to focus on.
that the Iran war has a real cost to it, one that the White House is weighing, and I'm hearing from both sides, your side and then the Iran hawk side as well on the prices. Steve Cortes, thank you very much. Always good to see you.